Today, we're going to go ahead and build a server with core Node.js. On
Okay.
Sunday, I want to build a
Uh-huh.
server with Express.js, but I also want to explore other options besides Express.js, including Restify, and I believe one's called Fastify. Like, there's other options beside Express, just everybody uses Express. There's different pros and cons of each, and you use different ones at different times. So I want you to understand all those options, and then we'll build the same thing in Next.js. So you're going to see today we're going to build it in just pure Node.js. Um, you'll see how different core Node.js is from Express.js when we compare
Okay.
both of them on Sunday, because today you'll have this one, Sunday we'll have Express.js, and then you'll see how much easier Next.js is than all of them basically.
Okay.
But the same thing, whether you're using core Node.js, Express.js, or Next.js on the higher level, there's different pros and cons. So like,
Okay.
you know how
Okay.
people always ask what's the better technology, this or that? That's always like the structure of a lot of new people's sentences. Like, what's better, this or this? What should I use, this or that? It always depends.
Okay.
It always
Ooh.
depends. So when someone's like, I use SQL for everything, it's like probably just because that's all they know is SQL. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I want to make sure that you have a more system design and architectural point of view, like you're looking at things
Oh,
from a higher picture, and then
uh-huh.
obviously understand all the tedious details of each option. So I have a bunch of pseudo code here. I'm going to want you to actually follow this pseudo code and go ahead and just take it one line at a time.
Okay.
Type the code yourself, and if you have any trouble like typing the code or figuring out what to do here, then we could explore documentation, ChatGPT, Stack Overflow, these other options. And so that's one thing I also want you to do is just get in the habit of exploring documentation, doing further research. If
Documentation.
yeah, yeah. But the main thing
Stack
is like
Overflow.
writing down your requirements. So let me go ahead and share my screen.
Okay. So Stack Overflow, you said MDN is good too.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I probably won't even remember all the methods off the top of my head either. So we're definitely gonna do a little exploring
You
as
said
well.
Chat GBT.
And let me create the live share link so you could actually hop into my code editor.
Okay.
And I'm posting it in the chat right now.
Okay. Let's go ahead. Visit site. So when I click on the live share, it opens up in Microsoft Edge. So we should always, when we're doing code, we should always do this through Google, right? Is that correct? Google Chrome?
I believe you have. I believe you could do it through Microsoft Edge or Google, or you could do it through Visual Studio Code if you have that downloaded on your computer.
Okay. Yes, because I have it downloaded on my computer.
Yeah, so it should give you the option. But I think even when I use it, I open it up in the browser. It doesn't really matter which browser it opens up in, Edge or Chrome. They both work.
Okay. Let me see. Sign in to get code using sign in. Okay. Okay, I have your live share right here. Okay.
All right, cool. You're in, and you can see my screen, right?
Yes. And the word is kind of like small.
All right, give me 1 second. Okay. All right. So these words are too small, you said?
Yes.
Let me zoom in.
Okay, that's better.
Is that
That's
better?
better.
All right, can you
Uh-huh.
create files in Visual Studio Code in Live Share? You want to go ahead and create a file called serverJS. That's what we're going to use for our actual server, and then a directory called public.
Okay, so a file. You see my mouse, right?
No, I can't see your mouse. But if you
Oh
want to share
shoot.
your screen too, that would be cool. That way I can kind of see what you're doing.
Okay. Let me see. Uh, okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes. All right, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So
right
we go
inside
to
that one HTTP, create a file called serverJS.
okay,
And so this
a
is the file
file,
that we're actually going to build our server in. Go ahead and, yep, just serverJS.js.
server. Okay.
Boom.
Wow.
And then create a directory called public.
Click on this and then create a directory,
Yes.
new folder, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you said public,
Yes,
right?
public. Yep.
So it'll be like lowercase, all lowercase, right?
All lowercase. Yep.
Okay.
And then inside the public directory, go ahead and create a file called index.html. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to store all of our HTML files inside of this public directory. That's where our server is going to find the HTML that it serves to the front end. So this is all back end right here. Even though we're
Okay.
creating an HTML file, these HTML files, they're stored on the server. They're stored in the server in a public directory, and our server.js is going to basically use the FS module, the file system module, to find that file and import it into the server and basically send it to the browser for the most part.
Okay.
So go ahead and just type HTML right here.
We
And
didn't index file, right?
in,
HTML.
yep, and click on that HTML5. See the drop down? Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
And
okay.
then where the title is, just say HTTP module or something. So what we're covering today is the actual HTTP module of the Node.js library. Um,
Okay.
Let me go ahead and pull that up very quickly so you can see Node.js docs. Go to the
Okay.
documentation. And so these are all of Node.js's built-in modules. The module that we're going to be doing today is HTTP. So this one here.
Okay. Okay. I cannot see your because I still have mine shared. I still have my screen shared.
Oh, I'm sharing too. You
Um.
should be able to.
Yeah. I think when I do the share, I had to stop sharing or to see your screen.
All right. Let me stop streaming for a minute and start and see if
Okay.
you could. Can you see me now?
Okay. Let's see watch screen right here. Okay. Now. Okay. Now I see your screen right
All right.
here. Okay.
Perfect. Perfect. So this is the Node.js documentation. These are all the built-in modules. These are all this is all code that's already written that you can use for different things. Like the console, same thing as in the browser. You're gonna be able to use it for like console.log. You could even like color your output. Um, File system we use to access the file system of the server or the computer that the program's running on. HTTP, these are networking protocols, so these are used to build servers. Net
Okay.
too, I believe that all these HTTP are built on top of net. Net is the core. You have operating system, so you can get information about the operating system. Path to make working with the file system easier. There's like tons of different things here that are built in that are gonna
Okay.
make coding a lot easier. All the code that you're gonna use in Node.js is basically all right here right now, except for
Wow.
the custom business logic that you write depending on the application that you're building.
Okay.
So we're gonna be doing HTTP today mostly, but we're also gonna dig in. We're gonna use file system module, and we're also gonna use the path module. So we're gonna use 3 modules today. But if I click on
Okay.
HTTP, you can see this is the documentation for all of HTTP. Um,
Wow.
we have the agent. We have client request. We have the server. So we're actually going to create a server today.
Okay.
Server response. So we have the request and the response, incoming message, outgoing message, a bunch of methods, and then just some core ones here. We're going to use this create server here today in just a minute.
Okay.
But I just want to give you this is the HTTP documentation. You can see it's massive,
Wow.
like it's big. Some of this stuff is deprecated. Wherever you see the bold red, that's a deprecated module. See,
Okay. That
deprecated.
means it's not used no more.
Yeah, they tell you what to use instead. Um,
Okay.
but it's just the HTTP module is pretty big. So you can see how the
Okay.
documentation, it really has everything
What?
you need. All this stuff are properties and methods that are just built in and ready to use, basically.
Wow.
Um, but all right, so let's pull up the code. We have, you want to just create an H1 inside the body and just say
Okay.
like coming from server.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect. And then I'll go ahead and open up the pseudocode. Let's jump over to the server. So this HTML that we have, this is ready to go. We're just going to serve this from the server to the browser. So let's go over to the server.js. And the first thing we want to do
Okay.
is just import the necessary modules. So I told you we're going to be using the HTTP module, the path module, and the FS module. So go ahead and just import them. Import them with common JS style. So do you know the difference between ES modules and common JS?
No, not really.
So if I'm using ES modules, I'm going to import it like this.
Oh, okay. Import.
And
Okay.
if I'm using common JS, I'm going to do it like this.
Okay.
So we're going to use, we have ES module style, and we have common JS style. So we're going to import
Okay.
them all with the common JS style.
Okay.
So I already imported the HTTP. You want to go ahead and import the path and the FS.
Okay. So.
And basically what we're doing by importing these, by doing const HTTP equals require HTTP, now I could access all this functionality from the documentation, all this stuff I could access in the program now. Just with this HTTP keyword. And
Okay.
you can see we have a bunch of built-in stuff here. So just do the same thing that I did with HTTP, but do it with path and
Oh, okay.
and FS.
So.
Oops. Go ahead.
So it'd be const path.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe I should go back to that Node.js documentation, or
Just do the same
you
thing
said.
that's here.
Oh, just like
The only
that.
thing that's changing is this here.
The path. Okay.
Yeah, instead of HTTP,
Or-
you'll have path. Yep. Perfect. And then do the same thing for FS.
And then const. Now, what is FS short for?
File system.
Okay. I always see it automatically built in. Okay, so it tells you. Okay.
Yep. Okay, there we go. So now we have access to all of the modules that we're going to need. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to be running this server on localhost 3000. And so there's a lot of programs out there that will actually wire this up for you, like React, Next.js. They automatically wire it up to localhost 3000 for you. We're going to wire it up to localhost 3000 ourselves. So we're going to create two variables, two constants. One of them is going to be called port. The other one is going to be called hostname.
Okay, so const.
Port. And make sure port is all capitals.
Okay, const port. Uh-huh.
Equals 3000.
Okay.
And then do another one, const hostname.
All capitals, host name?
Yeah. Any constants I typically make with all capitals.
With all capitals? Okay,
Yeah.
equals. Uh-huh.
String, localhost. No, just a string.
Oh, just
Like
localhost?
quotations. Yeah, localhost.
Host.
Yeah, no space, no space though.
Oh, localhost. Okay.
There you go. All right. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna actually create the server. We're gonna create the server. If you look at pseudocode line number 3, create HTTP server with a request handler.
See.
We're gonna have something called server handler. We're gonna pass that in. So let's take a look at the documentation really quickly. So
okay.
if I come over here and I go to the create server, HTTP create server, you can see this returns a new instance of HTTP server. So this is going to be actually our running server. It's going to return an object that stays live, that is checking and just waiting for requests to come in from a browser.
Wow. Okay.
So if you look down here at this code, we're just going to use. See how in this code they do HTTP create server, and then inside the create server method they pass this callback function?
Yes.
We're going to build the callback function separately. It's going to be called serverHandler, and that's going to be just a separate function. So instead of putting a callback function in here, we're just going to put the word serverHandler. So go ahead and basically copy this code. Const server equals HTTP create server, and then inside the parentheses put serverHandler.
Okay, so const server. Oh, I mean, maybe I should.
Server could be lowercase too.
Okay. So it'd be const server equals HTTP dot create server, right?
Yes.
Or maybe I should have the Node.js documentation up instead of going back and forth.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Okay.
Especially navigating on your own is a huge skill. Like, that's a massive skill.
Okay. So which one? Where we at?
I'll send the link.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
And then that should open you up right to create server.
Oh, here it goes right here. Visit site.
Hmm.
And then we went down right to right here, right? Const. And then we could copy, right? Or should we just like type it out?
You could copy it if you want. I try to type it out if I'm new to it, just to get the muscle memory.
Okay. Const server. Oh, did the wrong
Sorry.
equals HTTP dot create server.
Yep.
Oh, see, it automatically does it right
Yep.
there.
Yep. That's because we
And
imported
then,
this. So once you do HTTP dot, you're gonna see all your options.
okay. Then do this right here, right? Copy
Parentheses.
this.
Just do parentheses.
Okay. Like that. Oh,
Uh,
wow.
just just one parentheses, and then
Okay.
what we're gonna do is here like what's here, right? What's here
Mm-hmm.
is if you look at the documentation, they pass a callback in there, but we're actually just gonna write that function separately, and we're gonna call this server handler. So go ahead and just let's actually create the function first. So create a function on line 13 called server handler.
So function, oh, line 13.
Mm-hmm.
So function, right? FUN, right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then what's the name?
It is server handler.
Is it all capitals?
The first letter is always lowercase. We'll do it camel case. Camel case is
Oh,
the first letter is always lowercase, and then any new word starts with a capital.
okay. Server handle. Okay. Mm,
And then to define a function, you just need to do function server handler parentheses before, because
okay.
you're mixing arrow function and traditional function, and then just
Okay.
that right there. So
Oh, okay.
that's going to be how we define functions.
Okay.
And inside the server handler, inside those parentheses, you want to
Uh-huh.
have two parameters. One of them is rec, and the other one is res. So one represents the request, and one represents the response. And so we have access to both the request object and the response object inside of our function. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So you said requests
Just REQ. Just
REQ.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
and then RES.
Comment RES. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So now we have access to those. And replace what's here with the name of our function.
Server handle. Okay. Okay.
Server
Handler.
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 Yes, there you go.
Uh-huh.
All right, so
Okay.
now we're passing this server handler into our server, and so every single time a request comes into our server, then this function is going to run. This function is
Okay.
going to execute every single time.
Okay.
So we basically what we're going to do first is we're just going to build this in a way that handles the HTML, right? So
Yes.
we just want when the browser lands to the home page, just a simple forward slash localhost 3000 forward slash, then we want to serve that HTML. So
Okay.
what we want to do, we're going to do a few things here. One, we're going to make sure that the request that's coming in is a GET request, and it's just seeking information. It's not sending any information. So the browser is reaching out to the server and saying, "Hey, can I have some information? Can I have an HTML page?" If it was a post request, it would be the browser would be like, "Hey, server, take this data that I'm sending you and do something with it. We just want to get
Okay.
requests because we're only getting information." So go ahead and write an if statement that says if rec.method equals a string of get.
Okay. So if and then
Rec.method. So we have
if
access to
rec.
this rec right here. That's going to be the request. So don't forget the parentheses for the if statement though.
Oh, so if okay parentheses.
Rec.method
Okay.
equals with strict equality, so three equals signs.
Oh, so 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay.
And then if rec.method equals get with all capitals, so a string of get,
Okay.
make sure it's
Okay.
a string. This right here has to be a string because we don't have a variable called get. If you look here, like we have port, we have hostname, we have server. You're writing it as a variable right now. We need this to be a string
Okay.
because rec.method is a string or null, I
Oh,
believe.
so when you mean string, it's like just like regular get, right?
Yeah,
Dot.
just the word get as a string. Yep.
Okay. So get is right here.
hmm So take a look at my screen really quickly.
Okay.
Can
Uh-huh.
you
I
see?
see a screen.
So if you look here, we're on the HTTP documentation. You can see this is our request object. Every time a request comes into the server, this object is going to be created. So you can see if you go down, we have request.method here. And if you go
Okay.
to request.method, you can see it's a string.
Oh, okay.
So let me send this to you.
Okay.
These are all the different methods. So we have get, we have post, we have put, we have patch, we have delete.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and send this to you. You can follow up
Okay.
with this information and just read that little article and explore it a little bit more if you'd like to.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is a string, and you can find out any of the information based on the documentation. You can see
Okay.
we're also going to use request.url.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Set header, protocol, host method, path. Yeah, it should just be URL, I believe. I'm not seeing it here. Request.url. Yeah, it should be rec.url. So, yeah. So go ahead and change this get right here to a string and then do the double ampersand because we're going to write another condition.
Okay. So this get into a string. So it would be lowercase, right? Or
No, capital.
okay. So it would be get dot.
Just turn it into a string.
Oh my God. I'm still trying to get to used to the terminology. Oh, so the string would be quotes, right?
Yeah, just put quotes around the word.
Oh, okay. 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 I got kind of lost there. Okay. So get in quotes is a string. Okay.
And then we're going to write another condition. So we'll do and then do rec.url
Okay. Rec dot URL. Okay.
equals strict
Space
equality.
equals.
Yeah, I always put spaces in between.
Okay. Uh-huh.
3 equal signs though,
Oh,
because we're checking for strict equality.
okay.
And then space, and then do just forward slash, but a string.
Would it be like this or the other way?
Just wrapping it, yeah, same thing, just wrap it in quotations though, make it a string.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, we got one extra one there. All right,
Okay.
now we could go ahead and close that if conditional. Now we're gonna write some logic in here. So basically, when this request comes into the server, we're checking to see if its method is set to get and if its URL is set to forward slash. So this is just saying that since we have localhost 3000, if we land at just localhost 3000 with no path, just a forward slash home page, then and the browser is just sending a request which is um, asking for the index.html, then we're gonna do some stuff here. So let's see,
Okay.
what's the next step? Um, the first thing we're gonna do is we are going to create a file path. So go ahead and create a const called file path. You don't have to do all capitals, just do camel case. So do const file path in camel case.
Right here under the if
Yep,
or
yep, right inside the conditional.
okay. So const space file path, right?
Yep. Just do
Okay.
make sure it's camel case. You just wanted there's tools like Prettier, like ESLint, like these tools that will structure your code when you click save and also like let you know you didn't write this in camel case. Like there's strict rules that will make sure that your code is consistent regardless of whether you're paying attention to these things or not. But
Okay.
we'll just try to stick to the camel case convention for now. I do I do see that these two consts are both capital. The reason why we're making these two const capital and not this const capital is because these constants are global variables, so they're going to be used by the entire program, whereas this
Mhm.
constant is only being used within this function and within this conditional right here. So
That is true.
go ahead and do const file path equals, and
Okay.
then we wanna we wanna use a built-in Node.js module to find the path that our index.html file is in. So if you look at, I'll go ahead and pull up the documentation here. Let me just
Okay.
pull up path, and you can see
Oh,
what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the resolve. So this is just gonna create a path for us.
path dot resolve.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this code here. You can see path.resolve. The first argument is gonna be dir name, so the directory name, basically one underscore HTTP. That's where all of our code lives inside the one underscore HTTP directory. We're writing all our code there. So that's gonna be dir name. We're gonna be able to represent our directory of the project with underscore underscore dir name. So go ahead and type
Okay.
this code here, path.resolve, parentheses.
Okay. Path dot resolve. Oh, so something similar to this. Okay.
Yep. And then
Then
instead of this is the first argument, do underscore underscore dir name, dirname, not as a string, just as a variable, because we have access to this this is a global variable that's just included in Node.js programs. So just
okay.
do underscore underscore dirname.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then
Then
replace this one with, do you know where's our index.html stored? Which directory?
uh under the public.
All right, so type public. Replace the Baz though.
So public. Uh-huh.
/
Okay.
and then what's the name of the file?
Index.html.
Exactly.
Okay.
There we go. So now we have the file path stored in this variable here. What we want to do is we're going to create another variable just called file exists to see if it's null or undefined, or if we actually have a file. So go ahead and create another const called file exists.
Oh, so right here, const file exist.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Equals.
Uh-huh.
So this time we're going to use the file system module. So if I go back and I click on file system, you're going to see we have file system. This is going to be a synchronous operation. So we have the file system with promises. We have it as callback, which is like the original way of doing it. And then we have synchronous. So we're going to use the synchronous method. And we're just going to use this right here. So fs.exists sync. And you can see right here.
Oh, wait, let me go back to your page. Exist sync path?
Yeah, just type fs dot and you should see some options.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Fs dot. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Oh.
You see options?
I see the options right here.
Do you see exist sync? Yep.
Okay.
And then do parentheses and pass in the file path variable that we created.
You mean file path?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're passing our file path variable into here just to make sure that the file we just created, the path to the file we just created, actually exists. If it doesn't exist, then we're going to want to return a 404 to the browser. This page doesn't exist.
Oh, wow.
If it does exist, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to forward the file to the browser, basically. So go ahead and write.
I wish we had a chance to record.
I'm recording for you.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So go ahead here and just write another conditional if.
Right here?
We'll handle the error first. So if file doesn't exist.
If file doesn't.
So the way we would do this is don't forget the parentheses. So if, let's do the parentheses, and then just write file exist, the variable we just created.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, in the parentheses, right?
Yeah. Yep.
If file exists.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, this is the negative case. This is if it doesn't exist. So we want to just reverse this. And we could do that by just putting an exclamation point in the beginning. So if our file does not exist, then this is going to be false. File exists is going to be false. So if we pass the false in here and then we put the exclamation in front of it, it's going to convert the false into true.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So this exclamation point is basically going to switch the Boolean value of the variable that comes after it. So if we have, let's just say we have true, this is actually going to return false. And if we have false, that's actually going to return true.
True. Okay.
So this is just checking file exists.
Okay.
And then inside here, if the file does not exist, what we want to do is now we have we want to handle the response. Now we want to start crafting the response, preparing it, and getting it ready to send back to the browser. So
Wow.
if I look at the documentation, let's just go here
Okay.
and let's look at the response documentation, server response. You can
Wow.
see we have a bunch of stuff here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set the response's status code to 404,
Oh.
not found.
Oh, I know what you mean. So, like, say for instance, if somebody trying to send something, they would get like a 404 code. Like, say for instance, um, like if my website is not available and I put it in, the 404 code comes back saying that it doesn't exist.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, wow.
So go ahead and say response.status code equals 404. You can see
Okay.
status code here. Actually, it's literally this code here. That's exactly what you have to type
Which one?
right here.
Response dot status code equals 404.
Yes.
Which one? What line?
18.
Okay.
So this is if the file
Response.
that
Oh,
we're looking for doesn't exist, then we're going to set the status code, because the status of this request is a 404, not found.
status code equals 404.
Now, one thing to keep in mind is you're targeting response, but the variable that we're using to handle the response is just res, not response. Even though the documentation says response, we're just using res. We could use response, it's just longer, and best practice is to use just res. So just,
Just shorter.
yeah, so
Okay.
on line
So
18,
keep it
just,
simple.
yeah.
Okay.
There you go. So res.status code equals 404. And then we're going to go ahead and set the response header, its content type, to text HTML. So let me just go ahead and go back to response documentation. We have response dot content type. Actually, it's not going to be content type. I believe it's going to be set header. Here we go, right here. So we're going to set the header of the response with the set header.
Okay.
So you can see here, this is actually literally what you need to write. Just the only difference is instead of response, just res. Set header.
Okay.
Yeah, this is literally.
So, oh, wait a minute. So, hold on. Let me go to the documentation real quick. So which one did you go to?
Response dot
Response.
set header.
Well, what category?
HTTP.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then
And then when you get to the HTTP documentation, just scroll down to the class that is client request.
server response. Okay.
Server response. Yep, HTTP
Okay.
dot server response. And then underneath that, you should see a method that says response dot set header.
Oh, okay. I see this right here. Oh, wow. That's a lot. Okay. Oh man, I really have to read this because it's a lot. It's a lot to learn.
Yeah. That's why I'm just throwing a couple methods your way, like the core methods. Like these are core things that if you build a
Okay.
Node.js application from scratch, you definitely want to set the status code of every response, and you want to set the headers with every response as well.
Okay. Now, the next code that I had to type in, what line where I had to put that under? Is that
Just
under
right,
18?
yeah, just right on 19.
Okay.
So res dot set header.
Res dot. The set header.
Mm-hmm. Just make sure that's a capital H. There you use camel case too.
Okay.
And then parentheses. And inside the
Okay.
parentheses, we're going to have two variables. So variable 1, variable 2. Variable 1 is going to be a string that says content type. And the second variable is going to be text HTML. So just replace 1 with content type and replace 2 with text HTML.
Okay. So content type.
And there's also, let me go ahead and get.
And then 2 is text. Okay.
I'm going to send you this documentation as well. This is just about the different headers you can use. We're using content type right here, but there's tons of different headers you can use depending on whether you're setting back like conditionals, you're trying to cache information, you're sending cookies, something related to the CORS policy. We're using message body information. So this is just sending information. This indicates the media type of the resource being sent back. And since the resource that we're sending back is an HTML file, we do text.html. If we're sending back JSON, which is another common one, you'd replace text/HTML with application/JSON.
Okay.
And then we'll go ahead and we'll do, this is what actually sends the response back to the browser. So if I go back to the HTTP documentation, look at my screen really quick.
Uh-huh.
If you look here, then we're going to scroll down also to server response, and we're going to do end. Response.end. When you type response.end, this method signals to the server that all of the response headers and the body have been sent. That server should consider this message complete. The method response.end must be called on each response. So you literally, every time a request is made to the server, you have to call response.end. Otherwise, your server will think that this request is still open, and that's not going to be good. So you this is the most important of all the methods here. Response.end. This is actually just signifying to the server, this is closed. This is a closed request. We're done. We're done here. So we're gonna send. So do res.end. Res.end.
Right here on line 20. Res. Dot. What is it? Lowercase n or?
Yep.
Okay.
I believe this is capital C too. I believe that's it. Let me just make sure. I believe they do everything camel case.
Okay.
Response. Status code. Yes, capital C. Yep. Okay, cool. So, and then put parentheses. So we're going to call this method. Now, inside of this method, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna send back some HTML, and I'll go ahead and just type this, since it's just like very simple HTML. I'm gonna say HTML. We're gonna send a body, and then we're just gonna send an H3 that says page not found.
Oh.
Okay. So now this HTML will be sent to the browser, and this is what you will see. Another thing we could do is we could go ahead in our public directory and just create notfound.html. And instead of passing this in here, do the same thing with this path. Like, if the file does not exist, then just get that file and send it, but we're gonna go ahead and just type it statically in here, because if this file is not found, then there's a problem. So maybe someone deleted the directory, maybe something else is happening, but if we're not able to find this file, maybe we won't be able to find a file that's for not found pages either. So we'll go ahead, we'll just do this static in here so we don't have to worry about not finding a file. This is going to send this HTML no matter what.
Okay. Wow.
And then, let's see. And then if the file exists, so we have this if conditional here. So this is handling if the file is not found. Now we need to do if it is found. So we're basically doing the same thing. We're doing res.status code 404, res.set header, content type HTML, and res.end. We're going to do the same three methods down here, but instead we're going to set the status code to 200.
Oh.
Success.
Okay. So else, and just like this, right?
Yep. Res.status code equals 200.
Res dot equals 200.
Yeah. And then res.set header, same exact thing. So you could literally copy and paste line 19 if you want.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, I did something. Okay.
And then, hold on, I think we're missing something here.
Yeah, I think I did something. I'm not too sure.
There we go, that's better. All right, cool. And then now we're not just gonna end the response. What we're gonna do is we're gonna read this file. We're gonna read this file path right here. And so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna use the file system module to begin a stream. We're gonna begin a stream of reading that file. And basically what the stream is it's sending the file to the browser in chunks. We could go ahead and read the whole file as one, but sometimes you have really big files. Like if the file is a gigabyte and you send this to the browser all at once, the file is not going to start loading in the browser until the whole gigabyte loads up in the browser. So it might take like a second or 2 seconds. That's too long. You want it to start loading right away. And so what we're going to do, instead of loading the file all in one with the read file method, is we're going to create a read stream. And so we're going to start streaming the data to the browser so that the browser starts loading the data once it receives the first chunk. So a big file, it might be broken up into like 1,000 chunks, but if when that first little chunk hits the browser, it starts loading. For example, videos, that's perfect, because you don't want to wait until the whole video loads in the browser to start playing it. You want to start playing it right away. Once the server starts sending the response, once it starts sending the first chunk, you want it to start playing that video. You want it to be almost immediately. You don't want them to have to wait at all. So you don't typically need to the read stream. You don't have to send it in chunks with a file this small. Our index.html is a super small file. We could just use the read file method. We really could, but
Okay.
we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the read stream just so you could see how to do this, and so you could see that this is possible with any type of file, essentially. So let's go ahead and check out the documentation again.
Okay.
This is going to be the file system module.
Ooh. Wow.
And this is going to be create read stream. So fs.
Okay. So you said the file system.
Yeah. So fs dot create read stream.
FS. Is it under promises or under synchronous?
It's under both of them. But we're going to go ahead and I believe we're using we're using the callback.
Oh, callback example. Okay.
Yeah. So create
And
read stream.
then and so it will be FS string.
Create read stream.
Oh,
fs dot create read stream.
let me see if I can find it. Oh, here it goes right here. Okay. Wow. Ugh. Oh my god. Ooh, it's a lot to learn.
Yeah, the
Ooh.
more you could learn the documentation, the better you're going to be, because there's literally thousands of properties and methods that exist that are built in right now, and it's like the better you know and understand these things, the better you're going to be able to control your program. The same way as if like you buy a car and
Mm-hmm.
you know how to use the steering wheel, the brakes, and the gas, but you never learn what like any of the knobs on the radio. You can never listen to music, you can't change the channel, you can't play CDs, you can't stream music from iTunes or whatever. You don't have access to any of the entertainment functionality. But if you start playing around with those knobs and using them, then you're going to start learning how to use your entertainment system, and you're going to get good with it. So you need to practice with these methods. These are basically knobs. These are knobs,
Okay.
controls. All these methods and
Oh,
properties, they're knobs and controls. Same thing with like your air conditioner in your car. Like that's a whole different functionality. It has nothing to do with your entertainment system. It has to do with like
yes.
environmental control. But the same way, if you never play around with those knobs, they just exist. The functionality lives there, and you could cool yourself down in the summer, but you never started playing around with the knobs. So you really have to dig through the documentation, start playing around with these knobs, start playing, reading it, implementing them in very small ways. That's basically what we're doing. I'm just throwing a few important ones at you right now. But the
Okay.
more you could explore the documentation and build just tiny projects like this and really learn them all like wax on, wax off, just a few at a time with very small
Okay.
programs, it compiling bigger programs is going to start making much more sense. You're going to start seeing how everything pieces together.
Wow. So do I need to put like import create read string or just do
Nope.
the const
Nope,
string?
because we already imported file system in the beginning. So you could just do on line 30 fs dot, just do fs dot, and you'll see your list of options.
Oh, okay. Okay. Line 30.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. FS dot.
You see create
Oh,
read
okay.
stream,
Oh, wow.
not read stream, create read stream.
I don't see create read string right here. So do I need create? Oh, here we go. Okay.
There you go. And then parentheses,
Okay.
and you're going to pass in the file path, the path to the file we created at the top.
Which is the public.
Just file path. We created a variable for it at the top.
The
Right
will it
here
be this?
on line 15.
Oh, okay. File path.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So this is going to go ahead and read the contents of the file, but we also have to, that's just reading the contents of the file. That's not saying send this to the browser. So the way that we send this to the browser is something called a pipe, and we pipe this to the response. It's basically creating a connection between the create read stream, the reading of the file, and the response that we're sending back to the browser. So go ahead and do dot pipe
Dot pipe.
right outside the parentheses.
So dot. Is that pipe? Oh, here we go. Right here. Okay.
Yep. And then parentheses,
Okay.
and pass the response into that pipe. So it's just res. Boom. All right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Let's make sure we didn't miss anything. So create a read stream of the file and
Okay.
pipe it to the response. And
RES
then
is result and REQ is required.
request.
Request. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So we have
Yes.
the request and we have the
Request
response.
resolved. Okay.
And let me go ahead and just.
Ooh.
This might be a good one. Request body. Yeah,
So let me
this
ask
is
you
a good one.
something. So
Yes.
this is an actual server. So when you're talking about a server, you're talking about people actually going to the website and then the server is grabbing the data for whatever the user enters.
Well, the server is just a computer running somewhere out there in the world. So right now we're running on localhost 3000, but we could go ahead and deploy this server to to a host like Heroku or AWS, and then there'll be a
Oh,
computer with this code running on it. And if there's a computer with this code running on it, you have a domain name. So it might be like www.tiffany.com. So when someone goes to www.tiffany.com, it sends the request to the server that's running on AWS or Heroku. So from your computer to the server we created that's running somewhere in the world on another computer, and it executes this code on the response. So if you land on the home page, it's going to handle this function we just created. We're going to create another one
what?
for /notes, and you'll see if you go to a different page how it handles
Okay.
it. But it's always as you're navigating through the website, if it's just / like www.tiffany.com, it's going to execute this if statement because the request method is get and the request URL is / home. But we're also going to do
Oh,
another one that's if request.method equals get and request URL equals / notes, then do this instead. So we're going to be handling where the client is navigating to. Depending on which page you're on, the server is going to send different information back.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, all
Hmm.
right. So, we actually have. We'll do this. We'll do this next time because it's like
Okay.
7:33 right now. But let's go ahead and finish up this code first and just get this part of the code working. So, right now, what we did is, you can see we created these variables here on line 8 and 9 and 11, but we haven't used them yet. Even this server that we created, this is this server is this server object is stored inside our server variable. So
Okay.
http create server and then passing in this function that we created, this method here, create server, is just executing a function that creates an object and it's storing that object in our server variable. But our
Wow.
server's not live. We haven't said start our server yet. So this is just
Okay.
an object with no live code. What we have to do to actually start our server is, let me pull up the documentation.
Okay.
So if we go to HTTP and then we go to server, you can see we have server.listen. So if I click on server.listen, this starts the HTTP server listening for connections. This method is identical to server.listen from net. So you can see net is actually a different
Okay.
module.
Wow.
But the HTTP, the module that we're using right now, just a simple unsecured connection, is also using this same listen function that the net method, the net module
Wow.
uses. So we're gonna go ahead and type just server.listen on line 35.
Line 35.
Yep.
Okay. So server dot listen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And then we're gonna pass 3 arguments into it. Go ahead and put parentheses. So we're
Okay.
gonna pass three in. The first one's gonna be a number. Second one's gonna be a string, and the last one's gonna be a function. And so
Okay.
the number that we're passing in is just our port. So go ahead and pass on line 8. We created a port variable. Pass that port variable in as the number.
3000. Okay.
Just port, because port has the value 3000 already stored in it.
So just put port.
Yep.
Okay. Uh,
And then as the second one, we're going to use hostname.
Host name?
Hostname.
Localhost, right?
No, just hostname because we created this variable on line 9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it'd be host name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
And then the function is just something that's going to execute when we start our server. So let's just create that callback function right there. We're going to pass this function in. And we just want to say, we just want to log something to the console, letting us know that our server is up and running. So go ahead and do console.log.
On line 36?
Line 36, yep.
Okay. Console.log. Okay. In parentheses or equals, right?
Nope, parentheses. And then create a template literal. So the key on the left of the 1 is the template
Right here?
literal. Press it.
Oh. Oh, shoot. I don't know what I'm doing.
You see the 1 on your keyboard on the top left?
Oh, the 1?
Yeah, on the left
my
of
keyboard.
on the left of the 1, press that key. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
And then just write server is running at
Okay.
space $, curly brackets. And inside those curly brackets, put our port variable. Or put our host name variable.
So put
Host name.
host name.
Yep. And then go right after the curly brace.
Okay.
Put a colon. And then $, curly brace, port.
Port. P-O-R-T.
Yes.
Oh.
So it'll actually, the template literal allows you to inject variables into strings. So we should see localhost colon 3000 when we start our server. Let me go ahead and run this.
Okay. Let me go to your
See
screen.
what we get.
Okay.
So to run this, I'm just gonna type node, because node is an executable. It's basically saying run this node program, and we're gonna type server.js since that's our server, and you can see it says server is running at localhost 3000. So
Okay.
now if I go to localhost 3000, localhost 3000 coming from server. So that's actually coming from the live server.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's the HTML we have rendered to the live server. Now, if we went ahead and we went into our index.html and we started creating like a form with like an input of type text, and we went ahead, now we'd actually have to, we can't just refresh. Oh yeah, we can actually. There we go. See, now we get the input.
Okay.
So you would just, you're able to serve these HTML files from the server. What we should do actually is we should, it could just get expensive deploying stuff unless you're using free options, which there isn't really many anymore. They like start off as free and then they start charging you later. So I wonder if there's a way where we could deploy this. Yeah,
I have Bluehost, but because that's where I actually started because it is getting like pretty expensive. So I have a domain name already with Namecheap, but I am eventually gonna go back to Namecheap to do hosting.
Okay. Yeah, that's because that would be cool where something's live and you could actually access the server that you built. But this server is not actually done. We have this if statement that we created from line 14 to 32, And then underneath that, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do another if statement here for a different file path.
Wow.
So we'll
Okay.
do that. We'll do that Sunday, and we'll also
Okay.
start building the Express server as well, which is easier
Wow.
and faster. And you're gonna see that for sure. It's much easier. Like we're
Okay.
typing a ton of code for this. It's really wild.
Ye-
What questions
Yeah,
do you
this is a
have though?
lot.
I know, and I sent you a bunch of links to explore until Sunday as well.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, this is a live running server. It works. It's good to go. This is working.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then you could literally, as you build your page out, you can start creating more index.html pages in the public directory, and you could just build a bunch more statements, um, if statements that handle all the different pages.
So I could actually create a website on this if I
Oh,
wanted
a
to.
100%. Yeah,
Wow. Are you serious? Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
See, I'm
this is how it was before like React.js came out. You know.
okay. So React.js just makes it a whole lot easier. So when you talk about Express and Node.js, those are just like libraries, right? To make JavaScript a little bit easier.
Mm, I would say Node.js is a runtime. So when you're using JavaScript in the browser, that JavaScript is trapped in the browser. You can't execute it on like the files in your file system. Um, you can't get certain information like operating system information. There's no process. There's actually the global object is the window. So JavaScript in the browser is trapped in the browser, whereas Node.js is just like Java or Python or any of those other languages. It's JavaScript running on your computer. So instead of being
Okay.
limited to only the APIs that the browser contain, you have access to your entire computer essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
that's why you're able to build a server with it because this code that you wrote is actually just running on my computer. It's not running inside the browser. It's a process that's actually happening on my computer right now. And when you
Wow.
go ahead and you deploy it on like AWS or Heroku or one of these or Bluehost or one of these other sites, it's just this code running on their computer. So there's an
Oh,
active
okay.
process running, um, and when a request is made to that process, then it responds correctly.
Okay.
Basically, yep.
Wow.
What other questions?
That's it. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna look at the articles and stuff because I'm still trying to get used to the terminology.
Exactly. Let's just so if we look at line 4 is HTTP, right?
Yes.
Here we used HTTP. We used it to create the server. Do you
Okay.
see anywhere else in this file that we're using the HTTP?
Um, the HTTP. No, you just start off with in the beginning, but you
So
import HTTP.
here um, we have
Are you
grep.
talking about the methods? Oh, okay, okay, yes.
Yeah, any code inside this program that is connected to the HTTP module. So we have
Okay,
http.createServer. We have the request object. So
okay.
all these here,
Oh, this much easier. Okay, this helped
HTTP
it much easier. Okay,
res. So these three reses, these are all from the HTTP module. Same thing.
okay.
Res.
Wow.
These are with the HTTP module as well. Same with this res right here. And then also HTTP start server. So server.listen. because this server
Okay.
object that we created in the beginning comes from the HTTP module. So you can see
Okay.
our code is scattered with HTTP functionality, right? Up at the top where
Yes.
we create it, right here where we're checking the request object, here where we're setting the response object, here where we're setting the response object, and down here where we're actually starting the server. And then we have path to
Oh, okay. Get
get
the file.
get the file. And then also, yeah, so that's the one place we're using path. Path is like a smaller utility module. You just use it with working with paths. If you're using FS file system, you're probably using path. But
Path.
FS and HTTP are the chunky modules here. You can see how HTTP and FS, they're both green. This one's just blue. These are core modules that you're basically going to be using for every single program. HTTP and FS, and they have tons of functionality built into them, whereas path is mostly just properties. So you can see like, though we do have path.resolve, it's just a much smaller module. It's very, very small. Like if we come over here and we go to our file system, you can see how big this module is. Look at all this stuff. It's
Wow.
massive. There's so much functionality built
Wow.
into
That
this
is so
file.
much.
There's so much. And then if you look at HTTP, same thing. There's just so much functionality built into this module. It's massive.
You just gotta figure out what to use because it's so much.
Yeah, exactly. If you look at path, look how small path is.
Wow.
It's tiny. It's tiny. The only one we used is resolve. But see, there's literally like what, less than 20 here, less than 20 different
Okay.
methods, whereas file
So
system and HTTP, hundreds of methods, right?
yeah.
So there's just way bigger.
So so what we actually did, we just create a server using Node.
Yes, pure Node.js.
Node.js.
Yeah. So let's,
Oh, okay. Create server using Node.js. Okay.
so check if file exists. So we're using, to make it a little more clear,
Okay.
file system to check if the file exists here. And then do you see anywhere else that we're using a file system method here in our program?
Oh, right here. Create restream.
File system. Yes.
And then trying to figure out what else do we use. I think that's it because you got this right here. Create restream.
Mm-hmm.
You got the exist file system exist sync right here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you already have that right here at the top.
Yep.
Okay. That's it. That's what I see so far. Because if you're talking about file system, it's FS for
Yes.
file system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is
Wow.
a small server using mostly the HTTP module and mostly the request and the response objects. When there's a browser or another computer making a request to a server, that's basically how you're handling all of the connections, requests and responses. So there's a
Okay.
request that's coming in. That request has information. That request has a method. It has a URL. It has other things. If we go to HTTP module here and we look at our client request, this is the request object that comes with every connection, with every request. And you can see that there are some events that happen. The request, there's a connection, there's a request close, continue, timeout. Like if there's no response within a certain amount of time, we all get those timeouts, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It's
Uh
just
huh.
when there hasn't been a response in a long time, that event is going to trigger. So you could build this functionality in and just say, like let's say on timeout, request.set timeout emitted when the underlying socket times out from inactivity. This only
Inactivity.
notifies that the socket has been idle the request must be destroyed manually. You're still gonna have to close the request manually. Now, but you could
Okay.
also write code that's like, hey, on timeout, run this code. So you could actually
Okay.
handle the timeouts if you wanted to. All that functionality to handle everything is built right into it. But it's
Okay.
mostly request, handling the request and the response. So you can see we have our request here, our client request, tons of methods, path, method,
Wow.
host,
Wow.
protocol, all this
Wow.
stuff. And then we also have the response,
Okay.
which
Server response.
which
Wow.
also has a ton of different stuff. This server here, this is the object that's handling all of the requests and responses.
Okay. And so where is the article where it has like the 404 error code, the 202? Is that
That's the first one I sent you, postman.com.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. And then on Sunday, we'll go ahead and we still have this code to write here. So we're going to write now the same way that on line 16, we checked to make sure the method was a get method and the URL was just the home page. Now we're going to check this page, so / notes. And so when I go ahead right now, if I do / notes, we're not handling it. We're not handling that. You see this just spinning?
Yes.
Our server doesn't even know how to respond. Our server got that request, but it can't respond. We didn't write any logic to handle that response. So it's just going to
Yes.
keep spinning until it times out. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So we'll go ahead
okay.
and write code that handles this. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to create an array of notes. We're going to set the status to 200, same way here. We're going to do the content type as application JSON instead of text.html because we're actually just passing back data instead of passing back an HTML file. And then we're going to end the response with a JSON string of notes. So we're going to
Okay.
stringify the data and we're going to send it to the browser.
I'm gonna try to do this. Can you send me this information?
Actually, that would actually be a really, really good thing for you to do before Sunday, because you have all the logic already. Right now, we have an if statement that says if here. So I'll go ahead and write the code. If
Okay.
if the request method is get and the request URL is / notes, then basically just this code here. I'll copy and paste it.
Okay.
You could give it a shot because basically this is what we're doing is same exact thing. We're defining an array of notes. You know what an array is. We're basically just
Mm-hmm.
gonna fill that array with objects. So something like this, let notes equals
Notes. Okay.
array, and then just put like 2 objects in there, and each
Okay.
object is a note. So we'll give it like an ID of 1 and a title of
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
note title, and then the second one same thing, ID of 2 and a title. So title 2, and
Oh.
that's our notes data right there. So you could literally, once you write here, we wrote if request equals get and URL equals / on this example, you would actually create the notes array just right underneath the if conditional. Create the data,
Okay.
set the status code, set the header,
Wow.
res.end JSON stringify data, basically.
Okay.
A few lines of code.
Res- response status is two. So exactly like we did in the beginning with the first one, just do the second one.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Just different conditions.
Okay. Yeah, you could send me this, and I'll actually work on this before Sunday.
Cool. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna copy this code I'm gonna send it in our chat, and I'm gonna allow you to go ahead and create a Git repository.
Okay.
Let me go ahead
Wait a
and
minute. So, how do we?
create a
Create a
Git
Git
repository
repository.
for this
Okay,
project.
I'm actually taking a picture of the files that we have to create too,
All
so I
right.
can do this all in VS Code.
Yep. I could send a screenshot too. So create a repository for the project. Connect
Okay.
the code on your local computer to the GitHub repository. Make sure the server is running. And then complete.
And then I could also do like a read
Hold on.
file of like explaining what we are doing.
Yeah, you could do that if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd say like any of this stuff here, I would use for this like infrastructural type stuff where you're saving the code to GitHub, the configurational type stuff. Just use ChatGPT
Okay.
first. Not to say don't use Stack Overflow or Google or those other ones, but use ChatGPT first. It's usually the best.
Okay.
And then I'll go ahead and just give you this code so you can have a chance to go ahead and re-implement this project from scratch.
Okay. Nice. Ooh. Okay. So let's see.
I just sent you the code, so you got it.
Okay.
Yep. And let me also send you the file structure.
Okay.
And yeah, this
Oh,
is
nice.
this is
Nice.
definitely
Okay, I'm gonna take a look at this. Are you just doing a screenshot? Okay.
yeah, just so you can see. And then yeah, that should be good. And then if you have any questions, just reach out and
Okay.
I'll get back to you
Sounds
once I have
good.
a chance.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Jim. Thank
Yeah,
you.
for sure. Have a good night. I'll see you Sunday.
Sunday at 4:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30.
4:30 Central Standard Time,
Yes.
5:30 my time. All right, great. I'll
O-
see you then.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
All right, see ya. Oh,
Okay.
I'll send you the video link. I'll upload it right now and send it to you too.
Okay.
All right,
Sounds good. Thank
cool.
you very much, Jim.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Okay. Okay. Bye
Bye.
bye.